Welcome back to the Horror Hub. Let's jump right into the story. It was a cold, dark night in the city, and Jack and Emily were rushing to catch the last train home. They had been out at a dinner party with friends and were running late. As they sprinted towards the train station, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As they reached the platform, they saw the train sitting at the station, its doors open and waiting for them. They rushed towards it, only to be stopped by a group of shady-looking individuals standing in their way. "What do you want?" Jack demanded, his hand instinctively going to his pocket where he kept his military-issued knife. The leader of the group, a slimy-looking man named Marcus, sneered at them. "We want your tickets," he said, holding out his hand. "Hand them over, and you can have a nice, safe trip home." Jack and Emily hesitated, but before they could make a decision, a commotion broke out at the other end of the platform. A group of people were running towards them, shouting and waving their arms. "Get on the train! Get on the train!" they yelled. Without thinking, Jack grabbed Emily's hand and pulled her towards the train. They pushed past Marcus and his group and hopped on, panting and out of breath. As the doors closed behind them, they saw the platform outside was now empty, save for a few discarded ticket stubs fluttering in the wind. As the train began to pull out of the station, Jack and Emily caught their breath and looked around. They were the only ones in the train, aside from a small group huddled in the corner, who looked just as terrified as they were. "What the hell was that all about?" Emily asked, still shaking from the encounter. "I have no idea," Jack replied, his mind racing. "But I have a feeling it's not over yet." As the train chugged along, strange things started to happen. Lights flickered on and off. The temperature in the train dropped drastically, and strange noises echoed through the empty corridor. Emily clung to Jack, her eyes wide with fear. "We have to get off this train," she whispered. But Jack knew it was too late for that. They were miles from the next stop, and there was no way they could safely disembark. They were trapped. As the night wore on, the group in the corner revealed that they had seen Marcus and his accomplice, a woman named Sarah, boarding the train just before it left the station. They suspected that the two of them had something to do with the strange occurrences on the train. Just as Jack was starting to formulate a plan to take down Marcus and Sarah, the train came to a sudden, jarring halt. As the train came to a sudden, jarring halt, the group was thrown off balance. Emily let out a cry of fear as Jack struggled to stay upright. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Jack replied, his eyes scanning the train for any signs of danger. Just then, the door of the train swung open, and Marcus and Sarah appeared, both of them looking wild-eyed and desperate. "We need your help," Marcus said, his voice urgent. "Something's happening on this train, and we think we're all in danger." Jack and Emily exchanged a skeptical look, but before they could say anything, a loud crash echoed through the train. A group of shadowy figures appeared in the doorway, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of terror. "We have to get out of here," Sarah shouted, pushing past Marcus and grabbing Jack and Emily by the arm. The group stumbled through the dark corridors of the train, the shadowy figures hot on their heels. Jack's military training kicked in, and he took the lead, pulling Emily along behind him. As they reached the end of the train, they saw a glimmer of light in the distance. It was the next stop, and they could see the faint outline of a figure waiting on the platform. "Go! Go!" Jack shouted, pushing Emily towards the open door. She hesitated for a moment, but then turned and ran towards the light. Jack and the others followed close behind, their feet pounding against the metal floor of the train. Just as they reached the door, one of the shadowy figures lunged at them, its claws raking the air inches from Jack's face. He pulled out his knife and swung it at the creature, connecting with a sickening thud. The creature let out a howl of pain and retreated into the darkness, and Jack and the others tumbled out of the train and onto the platform. As they huddled on the ground, panting and shaking, a voice called out to them, "Are you all right?" They looked up to see a kind-faced woman in a nurse's uniform. It was Emily's friend, and she had come to meet them at the train station when they didn't show up at their planned destination. As they stumbled towards her, relief flooding through their veins. Jack couldn't help but wonder what had just happened on that train. And as he looked back at the dark and empty train, he knew that they had narrowly escaped something truly terrifying. But their nightmare was far from over. As they made their way home, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow seemed to hold some unseen danger, and Jack's Pete's was acting up worse than ever. As they huddled in their apartment, trying to make sense of the night's events, they received a visit from Detective Williams. He had been investigating a string of mysterious murders in the city and had heard about the strange happenings on the last train of the night. "We think whoever is behind these murders may have been on that train," the detective said, his eyes narrowed in suspicion. As Jack and Emily related their story, the detective's face grew grim. "It sounds like you all were very lucky to escape," he said. "But we can't rule out the possibility that one of you may have been the intended target." The group exchanged uneasy glances, each of them wondering if they could be the killer's next victim. But as they vowed to stay together and protect each other, they knew that they had to face their fears head-on if they wanted to survive. As the days passed, they did everything they could to stay safe. They stuck together, always staying in well-lit, crowded areas. They avoided the last train at all costs, and Jack even took up martial arts to better protect himself and Emily. But despite their precautions, the killer seemed to be always one step ahead. And as the murders continued to rise, Jack and Emily knew that it was only a matter of time before they were targeted again. One night, as they were walking home from a late movie, they heard a noise behind them. They turned to see Marcus and Sarah, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of hatred. "You should have given us your tickets," Marcus sneered, pulling out a knife. "Now you're going to pay the price." As Jack and Emily backed away, they knew that they were in for the fight of their lives, but they were ready. Together, they stood their ground, fighting off Marcus and Sarah with all the strength and training they had. In the end, they emerged victorious, but at a steep cost. Sarah lay dead at their feet, and Marcus was taken into custody by the police. As they stood on the dark and empty street, their bodies battered and bruised, Jack and Emily knew that they had finally faced their fears and come out on top. And as they made their way home, their hands tightly entwined, they knew that they would never take the last train again. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the Horror Hub and leave a like. Thanks for watching.